The racial wealth gap between black and white people has tripled since 1984, and if the 2008 recession is an indicator for what will happen in this post-COVID recession, then that gap will continue to grow even more. According to Matthew Mazzotta, a public policy major, he states that from 2010 to 2013, the black home ownership rate fell from 48% to 44%, after only decreasing 0.9% from 2007 to 2010. This is significant because home equity is, quote, by far the largest pot of wealth for about 3/4 of families, per Melvin Oliver, president of Pitzer College, and Thomas Shapiro, a professor at Brandeis University. This is a big problem because as home ownership continues to fall, then this signifies a larger decrease in wealth for the black community and for low-income communities. My solution to this is child development accounts, also known as baby bonds. Initially proposed by Derek Hamilton and William Darity, both economic professors, baby bonds would provide every newborn a bond ranging from $500 to $50,000, with the average bond being $20,000, depending on the net wealth of the family. A wealthier family will receive a smaller bond, and a less wealthy family will receive a larger bond. Each year, the bond is predicted to increase by at least 2%, and when the child turns 18 years old, they will have access to this bond. As the racial wealth gap continues to grow, the best plan of action to stop this growth is by taking long-term action now in the form of child development accounts, because of how they distribute wealth evenly, provide the opportunity for post-secondary education, and create long-term change. First, baby bonds will provide people with less wealth a greater opportunity for post-secondary education. Tim Stoberski, a contributing writer for Northeastern, states that the average salary of a person with a bachelor's degree is about $64,000 compared to a person without a bachelor's degree of $38,000. The average salary of someone with a high school, which is the average salary of someone with a high school diploma. With these high costs of colleges, due to high costs of colleges, people with low income are not as able to get a bachelor's degree, and then in turn don't have chance for that higher amount of wealth. Child development accounts address this issue by providing a large amount of money when people turn 18, which is traditionally right before people attend college. With this larger amount of money, people will have the opportunity to pursue a post-secondary education and get their degrees, which will then in turn lead to more wealth for people that are traditionally trapped in a system of low-income families. Second is the distribution of wealth. Child development accounts are structurally organized to distribute wealth very evenly because of how it analyzes the average wealth of the family. It distributes wealth because a low-income family will then receive a higher baby bond and in turn receive more wealth that they can then use to pursue, as I mentioned, a post-secondary education or also buy a house. This distribution of wealth is key because according to Melvin Oliver and Thomas Shapiro, the median black family's net worth is around $17,000 compared to the median white family's net wealth, which is $170,000. So the median white family's wealth is 10 times more than the median black family's wealth. So these baby bonds providing more money to lower income families will also work then to lower the racial wealth gap. There is a counter argument because baby bonds can be both expensive for the government and also can have fears of inflation. Yes, it is expensive, but the average cost of the total baby bonds per year would be less than 15% of the national budget. So it's definitely a large amount, but it is payable. And there are worries of inflation, but the government can take other fiscal actions that can lower this worry of inflation because of how And overall, the benefits of having baby bonds would be way more beneficial because of how they would systematically work to end the racial wealth gap, and it would increase the overall GDP of the country while also lessening unemployment. The racial wealth gap can't be ended overnight, and action needs to be taken now that will ensure generational change. As I mentioned earlier, the racial wealth gap is only expected to get worse after a recession, as in 2008, home ownership, as in after the 2008 recession, in the quote-unquote recovery period, home ownership fell for black families larger than it did during the actual recession. Actions now will give funding for families that they can then use to support them, will give funding to children that when they turn 18 can then use that for opportunities, as I mentioned, for post-secondary education, starting their own business, or also purchasing a house, which is a large indicator of wealth. Overall, as the racial wealth gap continues to grow, the best plan to stop this is baby bonds, because of how I cited that they distribute wealth evenly, they provide the opportunity for post-secondary education, and they create long-term change. Thank you.